guys, hey, I wanted to come to you this evening and bring to you a video clip with Dr. Jordan Peterson and Dr. Warren Farrell. And Dr. Farrell wrote the book, The Boy Crisis. And if you guys haven't checked this book out, please do so, because it's really good read. You know, really kind of gets into the nitty gritty of the way that we teach men, and with the way that we teach the way that men play a role in the lives of their kids, and how we need fathers, you know, in our society, and when we don't have that balance of masculine and feminine, we tend to run into problems. And I think in ways we're running into problems now. You know, we kind of got this idea that you know, masculinity is toxic, or can be toxic, and femininity can be toxic, and we're kind of not understanding that we need a good balance of the two. You know, male energy is kind of structure, it's order, it's the very foundation upon which things are built, and we need that in life. And where we run into problems with masculinity is when we kind of overemphasize certain things, like overemphasize, you know, if things become rigid, you know, they become you know, very controlling, very rigid. If things become that way, it's kind of, you know, it's becoming too masculinized. You know, we got to dial things back a little bit. But that's where the feminine comes in. We need to have positive aspects of that as well. You know, openness, you know, creativity, acceptance. You know, we got to have that stuff too. But again, that can go too far. You know, we don't want to accept everything. You know, we don't want to have everything happen. You know, we don't want to let in the Trojan horse, and that's where, you know, the feminine can kind of go too far, and we kind of find out. You know, we look at the world the way it is now, and we kind of understand. You know what? Yeah, we're actually having a lack of masculine kind of boundary setting. You know, male and female, like they say here, both, you'll see in a minute, you know, the male and the female both set boundaries, but the masculine kind of reinforces those boundaries to a much greater degree than the female. But let me play this, and we can kind of get to
studying this. I saw that it is not just the boy crisis, but that the boy crisis resides where dads do not reside. And so when we look at the 6 mass shooters in the 21st century who have been school shooters, all 6 of those mass shooters who have been school shooters in the 21st century, all 6 of them for whom we know the family background, every single one of them were dad-deprived boys, including you know, in Texas. And the stories are so amazingly similar. The dads are not involved. The mothers become involved. They care for the children a great deal, but the boy feels he has no no structure, no purpose, no discipline. Dads are far more likely, especially with their sons, to require their sons to be very good with boundary enforcement. Mothers tend to be more effective with just empathy and saying, sweetie, you know, you have a wonderful voice, you should sing, you should, you know, you're really good at acting, you should act. But acting and singing and any accomplishment takes a great deal of discipline. And the dad is more likely to say, don't expect us to get a tutor for you, or for me to drive you to school for this special practice that you're doing for basketball. If you're not practicing at home and doing these other things. And the mom is saying, don't be mean. He's upset that you're not doing that. Whereas the dad will say, no, I need to make it clear to him that he can't just manipulate everything, do everything he wants to do and expect us to take him everywhere and not have the discipline to succeed himself.
No, without a quid pro quo. So what do you mean exactly by boundary enforcement in that situation? And the difference between mothers and fathers in that?
Yes. A mom will be much more likely to say, moms and dads will both set boundaries almost the same way. One of the biggest misunderstandings in parenting is not understanding the difference between setting boundaries versus enforcing boundaries. So moms and dads, when a mom is with a child more than a dad, she tends to set bedtimes that are earlier. Dads set later bedtimes, so you think, oh, the dad is more lenient. But the studies show that the children with dads get to bed, in fact, earlier than the children with moms, because moms tend to do something like they set the bedtime, let's say at 8:30, and the child comes to 8:30, and the child says, "Oh, I haven't finished my homework," and mom goes, "Oh my goodness, I definitely don't want you to go to school without finishing your homework." "Okay, sweetie, you can spend a little bit more time finishing your homework," and she monitors and sees, and then that becomes 9 o'clock. "Oh, you didn't make me a story. Okay, I'll make you a story. Since you did your homework, that was good that you did that." And now it's 9:15, 9:30. Dad is more likely to say some version of, and the data bears this out. Dad is more likely to say some version of, "I'm sorry, you didn't do your homework. You had all this time to do it. You're going to have to go to class and not have to do your homework well."
All right, tough luck for you.
Yep. I mean, that's one thing I found out in my own life is that, I got 3 kids myself, but one thing I found out is, for myself and, the way my family works is, my wife is much more, she is a great mother, but she's much more lenient than I am with certain things. And, but again, if she needs to, she needs to have somebody kind of, reinforce something and kind of set boundaries, kind of reinforce the boundaries. It's me. It's wait till your father gets home. Your father's on your way home. Why don't we call your father and let him know what you did? It's like, and I think people that grew up in homes with dads understand that. They get that. They're like, yeah, that's normally what dads do. That's normally, I think in the world right now at large, we are putting an emphasis on that men should act more like women regarding the kids. And, men do need to be kind and accepting with the kids to a degree. I'm not saying they shouldn't, but it's like we can't take away this fact of what men do. Men provide a service to kids. Whether or not people see that or not, they provide a service to kids. They say, stop it, knock it off, behave this way. You're going to lose this, or I'm going to bust your ass if you don't. And maybe not, they don't have to even follow through with that physically, but they got to, they got to say, okay, I'm not putting up with this. You're on to bed. I've had it. And that's one thing fathers do that mothers don't really do as well. And that's one thing we've got to understand. And we also got to understand that that's what keeps, especially boys, out of jail. Is growing up in households with the father who's present, who's there, and who's willing to say, you know what, I don't care if you like me at this moment or not, but the answer is no. And, that's what we got to do. I was involved with a men's group up until a few months back. And we didn't meet too often, but we met on a kind of a regular basis, but anyways, when we would meet, we would kind of check in and talk about what was going on in our lives, which, was helpful, was supportive, it was great. But one thing that I found, and one reason I left the group, was a while back I shared something that was going on in my life. And this one time I had to watch my kids and somebody else's kids. So I had several kids by myself at the house for hours. And the kids were kind of taking advantage of the fact that there was only one adult with several kids. And I had certain rules in place. There was an above ground pool in the backyard, or, there still is. And you don't jump and climb in the pool. It's dangerous, don't do it. And you could hurt yourself or the pool. Don't put the garage door up and down, leave it up. Because if one of the safety mechanisms fail, then we got a problem. Somebody could get really hurt. So I put these rules in place. It's, they were young kids too, so stay within eyesight. Like, you can ride the bike, but don't ride all the way up the street where I can't see you. And anyways, within a couple of hours, they were climbing into the pool. They were putting the garage door up and down, up and down, up and down. I mean, literally, I had one of the kids standing there putting down, up, down. I mean, it wouldn't even get all the way down until they were hitting the button to put it back up. I mean, it was so. One was climbing in the pool. The other one broke a computer mouse. When they, broke the mouse for the computer. Another one was riding the bike up the street where I couldn't see him. And finally, I got to the point where nice wouldn't work anymore. Being nice wasn't working. So I said, all right, kids, you sit down here, you sit down there, you knock it off, you aren't moving. That's where you're going to sit for the next little bit. And anyways, I told this to the group, the men's group that I was involved with. And one of the guys, actually, after telling the story, the guy that was kind of the founder of the group, ended up saying, all right, everyone, repeat after me. Get off my lawn. And it's like, yeah, that's kind of minimizing the way that I feel about this situation. I'm telling the group that I had a hard time with this, and it freaking sucked. And you're kind of, in a way, what he was doing was he was putting it down because he disapproved of that behavior. He felt that behavior, that looking at it and saying, hey, you knock it off, sit down, is wrong. And the fact of the matter is, that's not the first thing you should do. But if it comes to it, that's what you got to do to maintain order or to keep people safe. And that's what I did. Those kids were my responsibility. I had to keep them safe. And, it's not something you should start out with. But that's not something I started out with. That was something I had to get to a certain point. Now, I will say this too. Like, our society seems to advocate women to act that way. It's like, oh, that's fine if a woman, she's just taking charge of the situation. Like, a few hours later, my wife came back home, and I had to run out for a few minutes to go somewhere. And when I came back, she was having to get on to the kids for doing something. And she acted in ways that were pretty much very similar to the way I acted. She was like, stop it. You sit down over here. You sit. She had to do that as well. And I guarantee you that they would see that as fine. They would see that as fine. That's acceptable. That's okay behavior. Because, again, we view things in a way in this world where it's okay for women, but not for men. And we do that in a way because we're trying to empower these women. Like stand up, do whatever, be strong, But with men, we don't do that. And I think that again, it's one of the imbalances that we're having between, again, guys, I guess what I'm saying is we don't push for strong men anymore. We don't really want, a man to kind of stand up and take charge until there's a problem. And then we want a strong man. Then we want a leader. Then we want somebody to stand up and say, you know what, there's a damn wolf at the door. I'm going to stand in the way of you and the wolf and protect you and my family. We view that. We're like, you know what? Yeah, that's the way men should be. But again, we don't really advocate. We don't really hold that into high esteem. But when the ships fall, when there's emergency, we look to the man in a lot of ways to what? Like, stand up, do something. And then we don't, kind of like the one, there was a story a while back of like a girl that got raped or something on a subway train in New York. And there were a few guys actually standing there, and they didn't do anything. They didn't get involved with it. And it's like, again, I think definitely they should have gotten involved. They should have stopped this guy, but I understand it's not really, we don't advocate. We don't want that kind of stuff. We don't value that in the world unless there's a problem. So again, we've kind of gotten out of balance, out of whack. But anyways, guys, if you like, I'm going to stop it here. But if you like my video, you like the content, please let me know and like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you. You son of a